The way I always describe it to people is that it's about a car thief who falls in love with one of his victims.
Ultimately, the film turned out to be bad guy meets good girl and they fall in love.
The Poor and Hungry is this, $20,000 digital movie. The stars are, history majors and teachers and, just people that Craig met somewhere and said, hey, come be in my movie.
I think it's tough comparing The Poor and Hungry to pretty much anything. Such a small film, it's shot on video, black and white.
Repo Man meets On the Waterfront. If you took Midnight Cowboy and you turned Joe Buck from a sympathetic hustler to a sympathetic car thief.
The first thing that really stood out to me was the atmosphere and the whole feel of the picture. The film felt like Memphis.
These fringe characters who were very human and very flawed, but inspired by music and by art and elevated by music.
There weren't any cookie cutter protagonists in it, where this person's good and this person's bad. There's shit and brightness at the same time.
It's a beautiful look into relationships, and not necessarily romantic relationships, but important relationships that people have, even if they're just for the briefest of time.
You need to see this movie so you can see how a first-time movie is done.
I actually think The Poor and Hungry is by far Craig's best movie. It has nothing to do with the fact that I was in it.
I've always had kind of a long-distance relationship with Memphis, Tennessee. All my family is from suburbs or country areas in the region, like Collierville and Rossville, Fisherville. But my parents moved around a lot, and a lot of my life was spent in Northern California, some in Southern California. But right when I turned around 21, I'd lost both of my grandfathers, and I really wanted to come back to Tennessee. I convinced Jody, who was then my girlfriend, to move out here and try to start a life, and also try to start a life making films. We put together a crew of Erin, my sister-in-law, and Seth, my brother-in-law, and a bunch of friends, but we didn't know how to operate a 16mm camera, and it turned into a huge disaster, this first film that we made. I didn't develop the movie for years because I knew that it was probably a bad movie. We had Erin's car, and that was one of our grip cars. And one night, we got a call from Erin saying, I went into the city, Memphis, and my car got stolen.
But nobody has said anything to me. Nobody has told me anything.
That's all the information at this time. That's all I have.
Nobody saw this happen. I mean, did anybody look around?
What sometimes happens is the very people who stole the car will sometimes chop it and dump it, and then they come and they buy it at the impound for $90, and now they officially own the pink slip on your car, and then they put the car together again with all the parts.
It's one of the best scams around.
And I was watching Erin cry, and she was so mad at the people who stole her car. And that's when I started looking around, and there was all these people, and I was like, well, it'd be interesting if the guy who stole the car was actually here watching Erin cry. And that's when I started writing The Poor and Hungry. And so I would go real late at night to the P&H Cafe. And I really got to be friends with Wanda Wilson. And until about 5 a.m. in the morning, she would be there, and she would just let me write off to the side. And there was this whole world of people that existed in this bar.
Oh, he was just an enthusiastic young man, and I was fascinated with him, which is why I tried to help in any way I could on the movie. But he, at some point, asked me what the P&H stood for, and I told him it stood for The Poor and Hungry, and he wanted to know if he could use the name, and I said, sure. I mean, shoot, that was great for me.
So your day treating you right?
If he wanted a character for a certain thing, I'd look around and see who I thought would would be best for that part, and then I'd bribe them with beer and stuff for him to come be in the movie. Whatever he needed that I could provide, I went to the trouble of doing so because I really liked Craig. I mean, how can you not like Craig? And his enthusiasm probably caused everybody else to be enthusiastic.
I wrote the script and I sent it off to my dad. I had kind of lost a little bit of my enthusiasm for filmmaking. I remember him calling me saying, "This is great. This is a great script." And he had just been to some computer expo, and this was back in like 1998. And he was fascinated by editing on a computer. He was like, it's like word processing, but with images. And he said, and I think that that's what you got to concentrate on is the editorial in this movie. But when it comes to shooting it, you need to embrace the theme of the movie, which is poor and hungry. So you need to grab one of these video cameras and you need to go out and just shoot it with a crew of 2. It's particularly interesting looking back that the movie dealt with a father who was dying, and yet my father, after this phone conversation with me, unexpectedly died. My father supporting me as a screenwriter, saying, this is a good script and you should figure out a way to make it. And then his death were the 2 galvanizing forces of making Poor and Hungry, because every day I went out and I was not making my first movie, I was making my last movie. Every once in a while you do need to remind people that cinema is sacred, and if you go about it with the idea that you want to make something that's going to last for a long time, it will last.
When I watched the movie, I felt like I was in the hands of a very confident filmmaker, a very confident storyteller, somebody who knew what they wanted to say and knew how to take me on this journey. And where it took me was to the world of the poor and hungry.
It's like this music is some kind of magnifying glass. It moves you to look closer.
People that you don't really want to know about their lives or their hopes. And when you look at people who are on the fringes, like prostitutes or pimps or chop shop guys, little homeless urchins trying to sell something to get a pack of cigarettes, you realize like we're all the same. That's what I love about it, And by looking at those characters who are elevated through art and through music, you realize that what you can do with your life.
I liked your music. Felt good. That big fiddle of yours. When you would rub that thing across it, I could feel it vibrating in my chest. Felt good.
Really tried to focus more on performance and content instead of trying to, make it look like Lawrence of Arabia.
The Poor and Hungry was written, directed, filmed, and edited by Craig Brewer. It was named after the P&H Cafe in Midtown. Poor and Hungry was shot entirely off a camcorder just like this one. It retails for only about $350.
We'd be filming like on Beale Street, and there'd be people filming their kids with more expensive cameras than we used on our films. So.
Little did they know.
When I first wrote the script, I wanted to be professional about it. So I got with professional crew members, and I got with big cameras and jibs, and we had tried to film a bunch of the movie in color.
I made stacks for that whitehead motherfucker. Now this here a done deal. I got someone wanting to buy.
I was in a couple of scenes when we had that big camera, and Craig called me one day and was like, it's just not feeling like I want it to feel.
I even got purple.
You mean like purple eyes?
Can you believe that shit? Just when I think I got me a handle on supply and demand, some bitch out there wanting purple fucking eyes.
And that was a big turning point for me. That was when I realized that it really had little to do with the weapon that you were using and had everything to do with the target you were aiming at. And the more you made the characters and the story the focal point, and the more you, moved your attention towards that part of the filmmaking process and just witnessed it, that the movie was going to be more compelling.
A finder's fee. Like a fee for finding the fucking buyer.
See, I don't think Mr. Coles
Jesus,
does
come on,
that. I mean, it's not
planet
like
do
you
you
get a
people do
cut or a
business on?
percentage.
This is how things work,
All
you know?
right,
I can't
listen.
live on charity. I do
Listen,
for
Hon.
you, and you cut me a fucking check. You know, I mean, it ain't rocket science.
Listen. Finder's fees, cowboys, Mr. Coles. It ain't gonna happen.
Could you put your pussy away this one time? Just this one time so I can close this. Do you think you can do that, you fucking Nelly?
So we switched up, and I'm so glad we did.
The cameras were so much smaller, and it made a huge difference because it's almost like they weren't there.
And that helped us, I think, tremendously, especially when you're in those intense moments and you can just go, 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 go without having to stop and start a lot.
I didn't have really that big of a crew. It was me and Seth. Seth was in charge of sound and helping light the sets that we went to.
When I came out here, I really didn't expect anything. Before, I've never even thought of what a film set looked like.
There was no catering. There was no craft service.
Now it is time to get out the brown eyeliner that actually doesn't line my eyes. It goes down there. Yeah, what do you think about that? That's nice. And then we get one there.
You know, we didn't have wardrobe, we didn't have, hair and makeup department. There was none of that. So it was do it on our own.
Okay, take it from one more time. Let me just see you walk. Go over there. Man, this thing's got the weirdest focus. Okay, there we go.
If there was blood that needed to be applied, Eric and Seth and Lindsay were over there with the Caro syrup and the food coloring, and they were mixing it themselves.
Actors are holding the boom mic when they're not in the scene.
If you don't have the money to manage your time, it's best to keep it a small crew. That intimate environment is what I like, especially if I'm acting in something. Some of the best stuff we shot or that I remember enjoying and thinking that was good, there's just 3 or 4 of us. Most of us were on camera.
90% of my time on this film was spent with 3 people: Eric Tate, Craig Brewer, and Seth Hagee.
But we were filming in real massage parlors. We were filming in real strip clubs. We were filming in real chop shops, and there was a certain element of danger with all of that I was both attracted to and had to be cautious with.
Understand that sometimes Memphis can be dangerous. We jumped in our cars and Craig said, "Come on, you all, we got everybody. We're going to go down here and just follow me." I didn't know where we were going to go. I didn't know. And I was like, "This is cool. I don't know what's going to happen." And all the time I was like, somebody's going to drive up, man. And they're going to jump us, because we're out here. I don't know whether we have permission to do this or not. So, it was like that fueled the excitement.
They made their own lights. They'd get a 2x4 and put light sockets on them. They'd screw lights in them.
Buying anything was pretty much out of the question. The sound was the most important thing, then the cameras. Everything else we either had to make or go to Home Depot.
It's nothing like you're going to see on a major budget film. People get creative, and that actually works so much better for the film.
We had a gel, we had a couple of clamp lights, we had, a couple of Chinese lantern for lighting. And that was really it. It was all homemade equipment. It was the jankiest thing.
Let's go. You got everything? You got your coats and everything? And
spray bottle.
Blood? Do we have blood?
I thought you applied blood before you left. No. Ask Seth.
Seth? Tell me you brought blood.
My mother came to watch us film once, and she was so upset. She was like, "What is my daughter doing? This is going to be terrible."
It's kind of like condensing college into 2 years, and it's about as valuable as most of these degrees these days. So,
it really was a guerrilla film in the purest of sense.
Can you
listen to me, you stupid corn-fed motherfucker. I know I embarrass you. I know I look and talk funny, ain't got big titties or a goddamn fucking fiddle to play on, but I always been here.
You know, we had so many great days where we were so happy and such a family, and then we had so many days, you know, where we were probably just like a family. You get frustrated.
Actually, yeah, me and Lake almost got into it one day. Like, we've been shooting for like 4 days at this point, and I was sleeping on Craig's couch. I don't think I'd showered in 2 or 3 days. And finally, in between takes, Lake's like, you realize you have rings around your neck. You have dirt on your neck. And I kind of got pissed. I was like, I was preparing for the scene for 2 days.
Am I supposed to feel sorry for you, Eli? Is that it? Why? Because you don't have any money? Because you don't have a family?
It wasn't necessarily the ideal situation. It wasn't like we were shooting this in 4 weeks with 5-day weeks and then there was a weekend.
I can't steal the air tubes to help him breathe or the stomach valves.
We filmed over a very long period, and at one point I went to college and I came back. Somebody else had the part and they got pregnant, I think.
We shot through, you know, every season twice. And it seems like all my memories are the really cold ones. Except the ones where everybody got heat stroke. It was like 110 out one day.
I'm gonna pass that.
All right, man.
All right.
Take care. You know, what's up, Don fucking Juan? How's it hanging?
You know, I mean, this is how it was. He would just call and say, hey, we're gonna film today. Can you be here in 30 minutes? I mean, that's how it was. And I said, Craig, I just got out of class. I've got rehearsal in 2 hours, or I've got an hour to eat dinner. I've got a test tomorrow. I gotta figure out when I'm gonna study. And you want me to film in 30 minutes? And he goes, do you want to finish this movie or not? And I went, yes, I'll see you in 30 minutes. We only had so many days until the premiere, and we had to finish.
Yeah, we yell at each other and fight with each other, but man, we were also very loyal to each other.
I met this girl, and she asked me to come watch her play.
The cello.
I don't know anyone here, and I was hoping that you'd come tag along.
So this is like a date.
No, it ain't like that.
With a real live girl. Huh.
What are you doing?
Well, no, I was just watching for the flying pigs. Come on, Casanova, let's go get some sculpture.
Lindsay's last night.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
It was on the last day of shooting with Lindsay, and we had to do the scene where she was crying on the bus and she's really messed up. She's got like blood coming down her hand, and we finally got her into position.
He said, now I'm just gonna talk to you. I want you to think about what I'm saying to you and just react.
And I began to just tell her that, you know, Harper isn't a stranger to her, that Harper is actually Lindsay's first child. It's like, it's the first thing she created. And we've got to let her go. And there's really nothing we can do for her.
And so that's where I got to let her go. And after, 2.5 years, nearly 3 years of filming and working with a character, it was hard to say goodbye to her and to that chapter in my life and to what an experience it was filming this movie and being this character and living with this character for so long. And we were a family. Is really what you're seeing is Lindsay crying.
Flew into my arms, and I was just kind of holding on to her, and I was just saying thank you, because I just asked so much from this girl.
And finally tonight, Memphis can now add movie capital to its list of credits. Tonight, moviegoers got a sneak preview of the film, The Poor and Hungry.
The Poor and Hungry.
The Poor and Hungry, a movie that cost just $20,000 to make and now taking Hollywood by storm.
Imagine my surprise when Craig called me and said that our film was accepted into the Hollywood Film Festival. I just thought we had made it. We went to the Hollywood Film Festival with a mission. We were a marketing machine, and we marketed our film.
When other people were schmoozing and messing around, they were handing out flyers. They were talking up the film. They were letting everybody know.
We had a standing room only premiere on the Paramount lot at the Hollywood Film Festival.
Helps to have a full theater when you're screening at a festival like that, so at least somebody sees it and talks about it. Because you can go to some festivals and there's 6 people in the audience.
Poor and Hungry was a smash. I was enjoying my 15 minutes of fame.
I had no expectations for the movie one way or the other. I was prepared for it to be fine, okay, but no big deal. And instead it was great. And you could tell that the audience really responded. It brought together black and white Memphis in a way that was not tokenism. The narrative was convincing, the characters were sympathetic, and if you have sympathetic characters, no matter what their activities are, you usually will win an audience.
28-year-old Craig Brewer recently took home honors for Best Digital Feature at the Hollywood Film Festival.
The buzz after the premiere was unbelievable. Everybody wanted to meet this guy who had made this movie with this budget. He had his foot in the door with anybody he wanted to tell his story to.
Well, after I finished Poor and Hungry, I wanted to make another movie as soon as I could. If Poor and Hungry was about the discovery of art, I wanted to make a movie that was really about the discovery of making art, that hey, I'm gonna stop talking about that thing and I'm gonna start doing it. So I wrote a sequel to Poor and Hungry.
Craig is currently working on a new project called Hustle and Flow. Can you give us a 30-second synopsis before we cut out of here?
It's about a street hustler that struggles to become a rap artist. And I fly out to Hollywood this Sunday to figure out who's going to do it. So,
well, that's not a bad position to be in.
I got a lawyer off of the screening at the Hollywood Film Festival. That later led to me having an agent. And one producer I met with was Stephanie Elaine.
I will start with a call that I got from Brad Gross, who was an agent, who called and said, I have a really good script for you. He said, well, he's a filmmaker. He's already made a film called The Poor and Hungry. I watched it and it had the same sense I had when I read the script, that I was in the hands of a filmmaker. I got Craig's number, I called him up and I said, I love your movie, I love your script, and I want to produce it.
Honestly, I wasn't expecting that, because everybody's shooting features on video now and everything, so I popped it in. I just became transfixed. I was like, wow, this is a true find. I knew nothing about Craig. I knew nothing about the awards that the film had won. I just knew that it was a great, great American film, and that this guy was a born filmmaker.
He gave me some notes on the script and he said that he really wanted to be a part of it. And that's really how at least my professional career got started. But I look at Poor and Hungry as the key, that went into the keyhole of Hollywood. I'm so thankful to the cast and thankful to Seth for being my partner in making this movie, and to my wife and to Erin, my sister-in-law, who's now been my assistant for 10 years and is now producing movies for me. I really wish my dad could see it. The fact that the last thing he could have said to me was this moment of encouragement, of him saying, don't be worried about getting into festivals. Don't be worried about getting into Hollywood. Really worry about getting good, and really, really be committed to making this movie the best it can possibly be. As far as it goes in terms of leaving a planet, leaving a life, he somehow managed to be a great encouragement to me on his last day on Earth.
People always ask me, what do I have to do to make it a film business? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? And I'm like, you got to write, you got to direct, you got to shoot, and you got to cut your own movie. You can't wait for the business to get to it, because you're never going to make it. And that's what Craig did with Poor and Hungry.
I think that the story is a classic story. It's been told, I guess, in several other ways, but this has this Memphis spin on it.
It just has that type of quality about it. It's one of those movies you want to go back and watch again and again. Stories about people last.
One of my dad's really great friends, after he got done seeing the film, he said, the most important thing that will ever happen to you in your life is the one thing that you have no control over, and that's the circumstances under which you're born. And that's what this movie is about. People who have not been able to control the circumstances under which they're born, but have to survive nonetheless. And that's what makes it so appealing and so sad.
I look back at those kids, myself included in that category, knowing that nobody was looking at us. Nobody was caring that we were making this movie on like a little video camera. And we were just throwing ourselves into it with no idea that it was going to go anywhere or be anything. And it was a moment in all of our lives that we wanted to commit to one thing, which was the making of this film. And we were better for it.
A lot of children playing on the ground.